But this is not about 5-2. This is not about, don't worry, we're in a playoff spot right now. This is about a team that's supposed to win a Super Bowl. They're not good enough right now to do that, and that's why people are worried at 5-2.
This episode of Nuff Said with Bob Koshinski is sponsored by Chef's Famous Italian Restaurant, home of the Spaghetti Parm, and located at 291 Seneca Street in Buffalo. Today's topic: will the Buffalo Bills defeat the Kansas City Chiefs this Sunday? With guest and radio legend Howard Simon.
Welcome back. Another episode of Nuff Said with yours truly, Bob Koshinski. Look who we have today. My good friend Howard Simon, who drove all the way in from, I don't know where you live. So
it's a big trip.
Big trip?
Yeah, I got a hotel room because I figured it would take like an all day, all night type of thing. I had an overnight stay.
Well, we were talking before we started recording about the Dodgers Blue Jays game, and you bailed because you're not a fan of either team, right?
I'm rooting for the Blue Jays, but I would root for anybody who plays the Dodgers. I don't like the Dodgers.
Okay. And that's because you're a Mets fan?
Yes.
Okay. I'd like to see the Blue Jays win.
Yeah.
But I hung out till I think the end of the 13th, and
that's
then
pretty good.
Yeah, no, especially for an old man. But I'm dragging today.
I would think.
Yeah,
coffee, energy drink,
some Tim Hortons. Yeah, we'll have to make him a sponsor. Of course, we're here at the famous Chef's Italian Restaurant. Howard is accumulating gift cards, and so if you're on the Simon Christmas list this year,
this is
you're
going
to get a nice plate of spaghetti parm at some point.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way, for taking care of that.
Well, look some people I have to lure into here. You're pretty easy. You know, I know you like to eat. I like to eat.
I'll do just about anything for free food.
Yeah. Well, a lot of broadcasters are that way.
Yeah, that's why I got into the business.
You know who the best at that was? Our good friend Art Wander. Oh, you put a buffet out for Artie, he'll be there all morning, noon, and night.
When he wasn't stealing lunches in the Empire break room?
Well, that's an accusation, Howard. It's never been proven. Never been proven.
That was the rumor in the building.
That's why I always ate out. I didn't want to leave my lunch in the fridge. Howard, the Buffalo Bills, I don't know.
That's all you had to say.
I honestly can't see them winning this game against the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm not trying to be pessimistic. Yeah. Watching these two teams play, watching the Chiefs play Monday night, they've got their act together. I mean, Mahomes was intercepted twice in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And Washington, of course, they had the backup quarterback in, but they couldn't even put a field goal on the board.
Yeah.
The Chiefs have straightened out whatever their problems were first couple weeks of the season. And it seems like we're always talking about the Bills meeting the Chiefs.
Yeah, every year. It's hard to be optimistic about the game on Sunday. And there's two different reasons. One, what the Chiefs are doing, and one, what's happening with the Bills, which is really odd to say. If you didn't watch the game and you just saw the score Sunday of 40-9 and said, what are you people worried about? It's basically the defense is still a work in progress, and the passing game is going backwards. And if you're going to beat Kansas City, one of two things has to happen. Either you have to have a really great defensive game plan to limit Mahomes and all of his weapons, or you got to outscore him. Now, we've been down that road before as Bills fans. Has not worked in the playoffs. It's hard to be optimistic because the offense is struggling in terms of their downfield passing game. I would think Kansas City is going to come up with some kind of an idea of how to keep James Cook from running for 216 yards. So it's going to go to the passing game and making plays against the Kansas City defense. And you've got to find a way to not let Mahomes go nuts and turn this into 42 or 41-40 with opening night against Baltimore. So, they could win, Bob. It's not like I wouldn't be stunned if the Bills beat the Chiefs. They own them in the regular season. But the way things are going with both teams right now, it's not looking that good.
Well, I can't believe I'm even saying this, but
the Bills are underdogged at home.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You know, the last time they were underdogs at home?
Had to be a Kansas City game. Or Baltimore.
No, it was their Baltimore playoff game.
Yeah, right.
But I didn't think I'd be worried about the Bills' offense.
I know.
And it's the passing game. So New England showed if you play this team with man coverage, nobody can get open. Right. Other than Kincaid. And, of course, Kincaid was not there for the loss to Atlanta.
Yep.
He made some catches, against Carolina. But if Palmer's not in the game, they really don't have anybody. look, I hate to say this, I don't think it's premature. Keon Coleman has not developed into what they had hoped he would develop into. And Josh Allen, normally teams didn't want to play the Bills man coverage because Allen would take off. But the defensive backs would have their back to the quarterback. He would take off. That's not happening this year as much. And I don't know. So, do you think there's something wrong with Josh Allen?
I don't. I hadn't thought. You mean like an injury?
Yeah.
Something going on? It's possible. I mean, he did have. I forget which game it was. He fell hard on his right shoulder. I think he went down on the turf one game and was kind of shaking his hand. I don't know. I wouldn't think so. I might feel better if actually that came out because it would explain what the heck is happening with the Bills passing game.
He's throwing some really wonky passes the last couple of games.
He has.
Unusual passes for him.
I think there is – the problem is, if you play man coverage, nobody gets open. I think a bigger issue for Sunday, too, is how much are the Chiefs going to blitz? Like, they like to blitz.
That's what they do.
And the Bills, against Atlanta, who went blitz heavy, Bills had a lot of problems, a lot of breakdowns, a lot of issues up front, the pass protection, communication, what are we doing, where are we sliding, it was bad. So I'd be worried about that as well, that Kansas City might actually come really with the pressure and everything, and that would not bode well, at least from what we've seen from the Bills. I don't know. Maybe there is, but to me, there's obviously something wrong with the passing game. It's a combination of guys aren't getting open, or Josh, for some reason, I almost think has he gone too far with the whole don't turn the ball over, take the safe throw, the stressing of yards after catch for 3-4 years now. I almost wonder if they've gone too far with it, and it's kind of made for an average passing game that does not have success throwing downfield.
He's only thrown the Baltimore game skews all the stats because he had almost 400 yards.
Right.
He hasn't thrown for 300 yards since then. He's only thrown, the highest total since then is 253.
Yeah.
He really hasn't been lighting it up in the air. Now, the running game is doing well. James Cook is now earning that big paycheck. Mm-hmm. But, you look at, in the last couple of years, Allen would stand back in the pocket and then he would roll out, which teams always wanted to stop him from doing. And that just gave those average receivers time to get open.
Right.
It's not happening this year.
Well, he's rolling out,
and
he's not throwing the ball.
He's trying to extend those plays
or
as
it's
long
incomplete.
As he can.
Yeah, right. I mean, there was the one play the other day when he gets sacked. He held on to the ball for more than 10 seconds. He's running all over the place. He's getting chased by defenders. They're tearing his jersey to try and tackle him, and he takes a 16-yard sack. He's got the ball for 10 seconds. You think somebody's going to break free at some point in 10 seconds from? So I would think he's got to be frustrated too, that if it is a simple case of guys aren't getting open, that he's got to get frustrated, and that might be throwing off his success, his ability. But what happened to the explosive pass plays? What happened to 4 plays, 78 yards in 90 seconds with a big bomb? It just doesn't happen anymore.
Well, you look at the receiving core. Palmer's the only guy who has kind of emerged as a downfield threat. He was the third receiver for the Chargers, which kind of tells you the state of the Bills' receiving core. Yeah. Now, Shakir makes great plays, but
he's not an over-the-top guy.
It's all short passes, and then he's got this uncanny ability to break tackles and then really accelerate. I mean, it's great to see him with those plays, but the Chiefs and the Bills have played each other so much. It's like they're division opponents because they play each other twice a year, so they know each other so well. Watching the Kansas City Chiefs, first off, Kelce, it's amazing to me. I watched him against the Commanders. This guy's wide open.
I know.
It's like, how do teams? Of course, Washington doesn't play KC that often, so it's not like
I think they would be aware of the tight end.
How does this guy get so wide open downfield?
And although he has enough weapons at wide receiver now that it's not just after they traded Tyreek Hill. There was a little bit of, hey, let's really focus on Kelce because who's going to beat you in the receiving core? Well, now they've really loaded up at wide receiver, so you can't cheat towards Kelce because they have too many guys who will beat you downfield in their wide receiving core. And that's why, to your point at the top, Kansas City for the last couple of years, they weren't exactly invincible. No. Last year, they were winning all these close games. They kept playing games where you'd be watching in the fourth quarter going, I think they're going to lose. And, of course, they'd pull something out. They'll get a flag, whatever, and they end up winning one-possession games. They are now, the word out of Kansas City, now you're reading all these stories about now they look like a few years ago when Hill was there and Kelce was driving people crazy, and Mahomes was the MVP. Now they look like they're, quote, they're back, which is not good because they looked very beatable last year.
Beating the Kansas City Chiefs, as Marv Levy once said, not about the Chiefs, but this is one of his sayings, it's simple but not easy. You've got to pressure Mahomes.
Yeah.
The Eagles showed last year, and Tampa
yeah.
showed this a couple of years ago when they
Right.
thumped them in the Super Bowl.
Right.
If you can pressure Mahomes, and it's not a secret just for Kansas City. If you do this to any quarterback, they become very average. I mean, Josh Allen is in that
Look
category.
at Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta pressured them.
Yeah. So I was encouraged by what I saw against Carolina with the new faces in the Bills' defensive lineup and in the defensive secondary. I was really surprised that they put Hairston in there.
Me too.
So, I'm glad to see that because they obviously have some confidence. I know I've talked to some guys who were at training camp that first week that he was there, and they said he was kind of struggling, trying to figure out the NFL system. But they obviously need some young bodies on defense. They're retreading these guys who are like 31, 30 years old. Poyer back out on the field. I never thought I'd see it.
I'm not sure how much choice they had, though.
Right.
What are the options? But now they've changed it. That's part of you said the retread. In the last few years, that was what the Bills did up front for the defensive line. It was always older guys, 1 or 2 year free agent contracts, quick fixes. But what did they do this past offseason? Nope, we're going to change that now. We're going to draft Deion Walker. We're going to draft TJ Sanders. We've got to get young guys to rebuild the defensive line. You still had Rousseau. I mean, Epenesa's not old. You still have Epinesa. Now, then they supplemented that with Hoyt and Ogunjobi, but the 6-game suspension kind of messed things up. I thought Hoyt was really good the other night.
Yeah, he was.
And that's huge, especially with Oliver going down. I mean, that's a big loss. They're very thin at defensive tackle. Hoyt was, they were on pass rush downs. They were moving him inside a little bit, so maybe that'll help make up for Oliver's absence. But yeah, Bob, that's part of this. I think the Bills saw what the Eagles did and said, we have to get a better pass rush. We have to retool the defensive line. Because if we win that matchup with Kansas City's offensive line, we can beat the Chiefs. Pass rush has not been that great this year. It is still a work in progress, but they had a really dominant performance against Carolina. Hopefully that carries over.
And who would have thought that the Bills, they have to beat the Chiefs to keep pace with the New England Patriots?
Well, that's the other side of this. This is a tough spot. It's not a good spot on the schedule to play Kansas City. Because if you don't beat the Chiefs, now New England is home for Atlanta. Now who knows which Falcon team shows up? Is it the Falcons team that beat the Bills, or is it the Falcons team that got beat by Miami? Granted, Penix didn't play, Drake London didn't play, and Bijan Robinson was kept in check. But if you think if New England's going to beat Atlanta, they're 7-2. If the Bills don't beat Kansas City, guess what? They're 5-3, and they're down the tiebreaker. There's a lot of football left, but that's pretty good catch-up you got to do.
I look down the road when the Bills face the Patriots. The Patriots are coming off their bye week, which isn't great.
Yeah, right.
At home, besides.
Right. And their schedule's not that tough.
No, because they didn't win many games last year.
So, and they're good. I think Drake May is really good. I think their defense has improved. I think Diggs, if Diggs maintains it, he's looking like the old Stephon Diggs. I think they upgraded at head coach. I'm not a huge Vrabel guy, but he's better than what they had. So I think the Patriots are legit. I think they're going to be in this the entire season, and the Bills have some work cut out for them. Yeah,
you look down the road, the Bills have to play Tampa. They have to play the Eagles.
Yep. Got to go to Houston. Now, Houston's not as good as we thought they were going to be, but it's a short week, and it's a road game on a Thursday night. You got to play Pittsburgh, though. I think Pittsburgh's defense has been bad this year. I don't even know what to make out of the Bengals anymore. I don't know how they lost to the Jets. But there are some tough. They've got to play Philly. Got to go to New England. And like you said, Baker Mayfield's having an MVP-type season, so it's not a easy schedule.
No, it's not. I mean, what looked like a cake schedule in the beginning of the year. And I always tell, the only audience I have anymore are my 3 sons. And I always tell my sons, look, forget what the schedule looks like in August.
Right. You never know.
All these teams change. The teams that you think are going to be good become average. The teams you think are going to be average suddenly become. Look at Indianapolis.
Right. Oh my God. Who thought they would be 7-1? I didn't think the Patriots would be 6-2 either.
No. Well, the Patriots, because the Patriots really played the Bills tough last year.
Yep.
The second game you got to throw out because the Bills didn't play any of their starters. But even with your backups in, and New England should have lost that game. Cost the coach's job.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Anyway, okay. So the Buffalo Bills.
So you're not picking them to win on Sunday?
No, I wouldn't pick them to win.
Yeah.
I don't have a good feeling. I don't. First of all, and maybe we get into this towards the end, but I mean, I don't gamble.
Yep.
I'm from the Falls, but I don't gamble.
Oh, you're the one.
A lot of my buddies in the Falls gamble.
I'm
I
sure
don't
you have
gamble.
a few connections if you wanted to lay.
You got connections?
No, you might have some connections.
I have more than
a few.
I have
bucks
more
on
than
it.
a few. I still have some current connections.
I don't gamble because I would lose money. I'm a terrible.
Because I
predictor.
would tend to gamble with my heart, and that's always
can't
wrong.
do that.
So, but looking at the Bills-Chiefs game, take my heart out of it. I just don't. They don't match up well on paper. The way our good friend Steve Tasker. I was listening to his show. He and Chris Brown have a show on this radio station. I don't know if you've heard about it. 550 a.m.
Not familiar with them. Is that a news station?
They're on in the afternoon. They're on in the afternoon.
All right, I might listen.
And Steve Tasker was so pro Bill. Now they're paying his salary, so I get it. And we worked somewhere in years gone by where we had to watch what we said about certain teams. But Steve just felt like this team really hasn't shown what they're capable of yet. And if they don't beat themselves, you're not going to beat them. I like that line of thinking. But I don't know. I mean, yes, turnovers can make a difference.
Yeah.
But I just, talent-wise, the Bills, once you get past Josh Allen, you don't have a whole lot else to talk about.
Yeah.
Well, James Cook.
Yeah, but the defensive side is a concern as well because, again, what have we been talking about? The secondary has kind of had some ups and downs, right?
Yeah.
Well, again, so I'm going to guess they're going to stick with Poyer, although Jordan Hancock played about 25% of the snaps. Maybe he'll be out there in passing situations again. But Poyer's in there. Bishop is learning on the job. Cornerback 2 is Trey White, and now Hairston's working in the rotation. I think it's unfair to expect Maxwell Hairston to be a savior and all of a sudden just take that cornerback job and run with it. He needs time on task. So that secondary is facing Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy and Juju Smith-Schuster and Rashee Rice and Tyquan Thornton. That's not a good matchup.
No, it's not.
Unless the pass rush can make it tough on Mahomes, that's really hard for that secondary to cover those guys. Man or zone, whatever the case.
So,
could be
General Manager Brandon Beane has been a magician in late draft picks. Not so much with the early draft picks.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, and maybe you have some insight, unless it was a character issue, how do you pass on Worthy? And you give the pick to the Chiefs of all people,
right?
And then you pick Keon Coleman. When you look at the two receivers, there's no comparison as to what one would have done for your offense compared to the other.
They're different types of receivers. Obviously, Worthy is
over the top,
run really fast downfield. We'll throw you the ball, and Coleman is win a one-on-one matchup, and he's not going to get yards after catch. No. Yeah, I didn't like it at the time. I don't know what they were thinking other than in their scouting report, their preparation. They didn't think Worthy was worth that pick. But it's been pointed out, too. We were talking about this last night on the TV show on Channel 7, and Joe Biscaglia, who, Joe does great draft work.
Any other names you want to bring up? Go ahead.
I know Bob Koshinski. He's a good friend of mine. No, I want to give credit where credit is due because everybody is saying.
Joe knows the team, yeah.
Everybody does point out Xavier Worthy. It's obvious because of Kansas City and all. And Joe will tell you, don't forget round 2 started and they passed on Ladd McConkey. He was on the board. Instead, they took Keon Coleman. McConkey's turned out to be a really good pickup. So that's 2 guys. I don't know. I don't know what their board said. I don't know why, but obviously they felt they believed in Coleman. Right now, it's like you said earlier, it's too early. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, Bob, he's a bust. He's just never going to turn out to be anything. But
he's a bust.
Okay, well, I'm not going to go and say that yet. But there are no indications he's going to turn out to be a really good NFL receiver.
I mean, I think they really thought they needed a big body for down by the goal line. They would, for whatever reason,
throw it to the tight ends.
Yeah, I know.
You drafted Kincaid when you had
usually
Knox.
got 3 of them out on the field.
Yeah, and now you have Hawes too. But yeah, throw it to the tight ends.
Yeah.
I mean, you need a game breaker. You need if you traded Diggs. You walked away from Davis, which I didn't have a problem with. I wouldn't have paid Gabe Davis what he got in free agency. But that really dramatically changed your receiving core. You had to replace an explosive component. Diggs was a guy you could double team and still not stop. Davis was a guy, when he was on his game, would make plays downfield. You had to replace that big play component, and they never did.
No.
They still don't have it other than maybe Palmer.
There's an outside chance we might see Davis back in a Bills uniform.
I don't know. I'm not holding out any hope that he's going to be any kind of savior. I would honestly, I would put more eggs in by November 4th, trade for a wide receiver basket.
Okay, so you bring it up. You think we're going to see something?
I do. I hope I'm not. This is where I get myself in trouble. This is every Sabres trade deadline going back to Darcy Regier when I'd be like, oh, they're definitely making a move. There's no question. I would go and take my early afternoon nap. I'd wake up after 3 o'clock, get my phone and go, they didn't make any trades. Or it was Bob Corkum one year, and I was like really disappointed. Sorry, Bob, if you're watching. So I don't want to get myself there, but he's got to. How do you not make a trade for a wide receiver?
With?
Trade any of your picks. Trade
I
don't care.
Yeah.
Trade your first-round pick. I don't care. Besides, you just brought up the top of the draft. Not so hot, in some of their drafts. Yeah. But you're trying to win a Super Bowl. It might not be right to say they're one wide receiver away from winning the Super Bowl. They got a bunch of issues on defense to iron out. But we know they're not good enough offensively right now to carry this team through the playoffs if the defense isn't dominant. You need another wide receiver. So I think you want someone wants the first round pick? Great. It's going to be low at the bottom of the round anyway. They traded out a round one last year. Right. Give them your first round pick. Go get a guy with some term. Give up whatever you have to give up.
For a receiver. Is that what you think they would need to trade for?
Yes. Yeah. Now, they might have to trade for a defensive tackle now with Ed Oliver being out, but that shouldn't cost you what it would cost to get an impact wide receiver. That's probably a day 3 pick. But anything is on the table to trade to get a wide receiver.
Last year, your former sidekick, Jeremy White, kind of got taken to task by Brandon Beane about receivers. One of the few times you saw Brandon, kind of show another side to him. But yet, here we are. We're talking about that very same issue,
right?
After 7 games of the season.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was. There's a part of me that thinks it. I'm going to throw a name out there. Please don't overreact. Tom Brady. I'm not saying this is it. At the end, towards the end of Tom Brady's time in New England, you look back at their drafting and who they brought in at wide receiver, there's a lot of garbage. I'm not talking Wes Welker or Julian Edelman. I'm talking about they brought in guys who just had no right to be playing in the National Football League. And I, as an outsider, would look at it and go, well, they got Tom Brady. This guy's so good, they must think he'll just make everybody better. He'll take an average guy, make him above average, a below average guy, make him average. He'll make it work because he's Tom Brady. Now, I'm not telling you I know this, but it feels like the Bills did that with Josh Allen. Like they looked at it and said, well, we're not going to give Gabe Davis big money. Diggs is a little bit of a headache. Yeah, let's move on from him. We're not going to go spend $25 million in free agency on a wide receiver, and we're not going to prioritize it in the first round of the draft. Why? Well, we got Josh Allen. We'll get guys that are okay,
right,
good, maybe slightly above average, but not Diggs, because we have Josh Allen. I don't know if that happened, but to me, that's what it looks like. You realize your quarterback is so good that you thought, we'll build up the defense, we'll do some other things. Well, it's not working.
No, the defense really didn't get better.
Well, that's the other thing, too. The defense very much has questions at all 3 levels of the field.
Well, the thing that hurts teams like the Bills, and it's amazing the Chiefs have been able to stay on top for so long, is the salary cap. They had to pay Allen. Yep. They had to pay Cook. They paid...
They extended a bunch of guys just this past offseason.
Yeah.
Bernard, Benford, and a lot of it are the correct moves, but it limits what you can do. It limits. You can't just go out. And I get that. You can't just go out. If they spent $25 million on a wide receiver, maybe they don't re-sign 2 or 3 guys that they extended in the offseason, and they've got, I think Torrance is coming up in a couple years. David Edwards is free after this year. McGovern might be as well. So I get it. Brandon Beane's got to figure out he can't overspend at one spot and cost the team multiple guys on the roster.
Well, and I think part of the other thing is that they don't like problems in the locker room.
Yep.
They don't want players to go without getting re-signed and have to deal with that all season, and the player have to answering questions, which Cook, sat out most of training camp.
Yep.
And I know McDermott hates that. That he wants, kumbaya in the locker room. Mm-hmm. He does not want that type of problem. And they've been very quick to extend these guys. And I know that it's amazing sometimes to me, why do these guys extend their contract instead of seeing what's out there in free agency? But because it's always a gamble. You can get hurt at any moment and suddenly wish you had taken the money. So they've extended everybody. They're keeping their team whole, and now they're just dealing with the week to week and trying to put Band-Aids on some of their problems. You mentioned Ed Oliver. I mean, Ed Oliver, maybe he'll be back for the playoffs. Who knows? I'm not terribly upset about that because Ed Oliver tends to flash, and then he disappears for part of the game. I love Walker, big body, 4th-round pick. Like I said, Bean's good at picking these guys late.
Right.
Jackson, who they brought in to be a
just wasn't
pass
ready.
rush, they don't even activate him.
I know he's
not even depth.
Yeah, I know.
No. Anyway, all right. So the Buffalo, we've talked about the Buffalo, but
and the funny thing is, by the way, if no one knew what their record was and just listened to this conversation, they would think they were 2-5, right? Not 5-2.
Well, because you look at who they beat.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Right. The Jets, the Dolphins. You know.
I mean, Carolina.
The Baltimore game was a big.
Carolina
win.
was what? 3-3.
They were 4 I think they were 4-3. They were
4?
But they had just had a win streak against the Jets, the Dolphins, and a really bad Dallas defense.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is, some fans are upset, like, hey guys, we're 5-2. I get it, but this is not about 5-2. This is not about, don't worry, we're in a playoff spot right now. This is about a team that's supposed to win a Super Bowl. They're not good enough right now to do that, and that's why people are worried at 5-2.
Let's briefly talk about the Buffalo Sabres, who have shown some life.
Yeah, it's fun.
I was Saturday night. We were at the Hall of Fame dinner, right?
Yeah,
and they were up 3-2 over Toronto, and I thought, right, that was Saturday.
No, that was the previous weekend.
Right.
You were some.
I've lost
at your age, it's understandable.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Anyway,
you still know how to get to your house, don't you?
Well, I have GPS.
Yeah, that's good.
So they were up. They beat Toronto at home, and then they played them in Toronto, and they're up 3-2 in the third, and gets tied, and they lose in over. But they got a point.
Yeah.
Right. Which, we had Mike Harrington on the last episode, and he said that's been their problem. They haven't figured out how to even get a point out of these close losses like the good teams do. But they're showing some life.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great to see. They are showing signs of life because the way the season started, I know it was only 3 games, but it was very much, oh my God, here we go again. So they've turned it around. That's good. The guys who need to be scoring are scoring. Tage Thompson is now doing what we know Tage Thompson can do. They're getting a little bit healthier. The goaltending line has been tremendous. And it's kind of, I don't know if ironic is the word, or maybe it's more like frustrating when they go up to Toronto and they've got a chance to take that game and sweep the series. And, UPL lets in a kind of a shaky goal there in the third period. I think it actually was tied at that point. But Lyon's been really good because the goaltending was a big question. The defense is better. That was a big thing for Lindy and for Kevin Adams to bring the goals against down, make the defense better. I think the defense is better. It should be even better with Kesselring coming back, perhaps soon. So I think there are a lot of reasons to feel better about the direction of the franchise after this, in this most recent stretch of whatever it is. I think it's like 4-1-1 and 6. That's good. It's a good sign. Has to continue. But they're scoring. Their special teams has been strong. Defense is better, and line has been solid in goal. Those are all good indications.
Okay, before I wrap up, Howard stepped away from the morning show at WGR. You're hardly retired. I think you've got like 5 jobs.
7, I think.
7?
That's okay.
I mean, you're doing Channel 7, right? You're still on GR. They bring you back
once a week. It's just one little segment.
Are you compensated for that?
Yeah. Do you think I do pick the bills for free?
If there's donuts.
Does it look like I do things? You know me. Do I do anything for free?
If there's donuts, you're doing this for free.
No, you gave me a gift card.
Well, that's true.
Donuts.
That's true.
That would be intriguing. That'd be a very big dilemma for me. Do I do it for donuts or not? I'd probably say yes.
Well, you like those guys. Of course you'd like to go back and see them. And what else are you doing?
Tour guide in the Falls.
Well, of course.
I'm still waiting for you to call me up and say you'd like a tour.
Look, there are a few places that I need a tour guide less than Niagara Falls. I go down there all the time.
It's not the point. Do you know all the stories?
I think I do.
Really?
I could probably give you a couple.
Go ahead.
They may not be real.
Go ahead.
No, they're Niagara Falls
give
legends.
Give me a Falls story. Come on.
Did you hear about the mob guy who got tossed over the American Falls with a gun in his hand?
No.
Well, see, there you go.
I did not know that one.
I don't even know if that's true. Probably.
It could be. I haven't heard that one.
It's probably. He may have, and he didn't, Magadino saved us a spot. They didn't have to
Did you know the mafia used to stash alcohol during Prohibition that they smuggled in from Canada on Luna Island?
I believe that.
Yeah, they did. That's what they did. If they got over the bridge.
Is that part of your tour?
It can be, depending on which tour I'm doing. We have different tours.
If there's any Italians in the group.
So I think I can tell this story. So there is, we used to do a Mobsters, and we still do a Mobsters and Mayhem tour. So we talk a lot about Magadino. And one of the stories we also tell is when they shut the falls off in 1969.
Yeah, I remember that.
So there were, the rapids is dry. So there's just millions of dollars in coins from people throwing coins in the water.
Yeah.
The story I was told, and sometimes I don't tell it because I don't want to offend any Italian Americans on my tour.
I'm half Italian, and
so
we're
you
chefs,
tell me, maybe we should not tell.
Well,
the story I was told during training was that Magadino had his guys get in trucks, drive down to the rapids with a bunch of buckets, and walk around at night picking up all the coins that were in the rapids.
I don't know if that's true or not. It doesn't. First of all, I can't believe there was millions of dollars in coins because the rapids are pretty swift. You toss a penny in the rapids,
it could sit at the bottom, don't you think?
It could, and they did. I know a couple of guys who worked construction crews during the minute they shut that cofferdam was done.
Yeah.
They were going around. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, supposedly New York State collected a bunch of stuff too.
Oh, of course.
I'm sure we all got it back in tax
They get their bucket
refunds.
of blood. Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I was in high school when they shut off the falls. In fact, they put a huge 2-page picture of it in one of my yearbooks.
Oh wow!
Kind of as a remembrance.
Did you go down there?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You saw it when it was
cool.
dry?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
The whole thing was a scam. There was no way they were going to remove all that rock from the bottom of the falls.
They were going to blow it up, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of boulders down there.
Come
No
on.
way.
It was a publicity stunt, you know. Listen, if you're out there from the Army Corps of Engineers, give me a call because I don't believe you're ever going to do anything with it.
I spoke to one person from the Army Corps of Engineers.
And he said?
It actually wasn't about that specifically, though there was a big study they can send you. You can read all the information if you wanted to. I actually talked to them had to try and have them explain to me how the falls moved 7 miles from Lewiston to where it is.
Yeah.
I just couldn't get that one. It's rock.
Well, because the rock underneath
is softer.
I did a paper on it in college.
And collapsed and moved.
Absolutely.
I just found that as how the falls move 7 miles.
Power projects slow that down quite a bit.
And where it is now is harder rock, which is slowing it down. It'll speed up when it passes ground.
I would have loved to have seen the falls before they started tapping that water to go into the reservoir.
Oh, with a full flow?
Yeah, because I'm told, my father-in-law used to tell me, if you lived on Niagara Street in the city of Niagara Falls, you could hear the roar of the falls from there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's a lot more water.
Yeah, well, that's right. They didn't do this until the 50s.
No. Yeah, well, yeah.
I think that's when they started diverting water.
They started diverting. It was like 60, 61 when they were done with the power. Okay. That's a whole nother podcast.
But that would have been cool to hear the sound of the falls far downtown.
They said the mist and and the erosion was much quicker.
Yeah,
this has nothing to do with the Buffalo Bills or Buffalo Sabres. But if you're from the falls, you can appreciate.
This is why you need to come do a tour.
And I got to give a shout out to your lovely wife, Joanne.
My wife, Joanne.
She's one of the head honchos of the Niagara Falls Music Hall of Fame.
Got their dinner coming up November 12th. I want to say I'm emceeing.
Are you going to? Oh, you're emceeing.
Yeah, you could send me some material. You're like the king of MCs.
Yeah, but there's
different crowd.
It's hard to joke around with people from the falls.
And the music crowd probably not into humor.
Honest to God, seriously, I've had people come up to me after Niagara Falls dinner saying that wasn't funny. it's too personal.
Know the room, huh?
It's too personal.
Wow.
Yeah.
I thought you were good at the.
I wasn't funny though. I just got us through the night as quickly as we
had
could.
Some good lines.
Well, Howard, it's always great to see you, buddy.
My pleasure. Anytime you have free food, I'll do anything you want.
Yeah, believe me, I'll be calling you. Last question.
Yeah.
What is Howard Simon going to be for Halloween?
Am I working Halloween? I can't remember.
Friday night?
I think I might have a hockey game. No, I don't. I don't know. What are you going to be? I'm going to be Bob Koshinski.
Wouldn't that be something?
I'm going to dress up as Bob Koshinski from Nuff Said.
Before or after the mustache?
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Anyway,
I got to find some old pictures and get to work.
No, if I grew a mustache now, I'd look like Santa Claus. So
I got to get a nice wig, thick black hair.
This is real. Tell your wife this is real.
We were debating that.
Unlike people you worked with in the past, this is the real deal.
I'm not saying anything.
Okay. Howard Simon. Howard, always great to have you here. Hey, next week, a new episode. Matt Beauvais from WKBW-TV will be my guest on next week's episode of Nuff Said with yours truly, Bob Koshinski. Everybody have a great Halloween. We'll see you next week.